I really didn't take Tesla seriously until I saw the Model 3. Everything changed. Everything. Nothing's the same. Nothing after Tesla. Nothing. And when I took the lid off the inverter and we started looking at it, I just about wet myself. It was so impressive. All the electronics and how incredibly efficient and effective the design was. Everything that really counts. The powertrain, the power distribution, the electronics, the communications, the software, everything was 10 years ahead of everybody else. You cannot, in your wildest imagination, understand how much Tesla has affected the auto industry around the world. None of these clowns wanted to move. Why? Because they already had these giant stamping machines, and they wouldn't change because nobody else has changed. Get real. Tesla moves at the speed of thought. Most of the rest of them move at the speed of a snail or a tortoise, something like that. When people say, well, everybody's going to catch up to Tesla, I can tell right away that that person knows nothing. They fired the little fat kid that used to run Toyota. And he was a useless waste of time.
In this video, Sandy Munro comes out swinging and doesn't hold back. Featuring a few highlights from Sandy Munro's appearance at the latest Tesla takeover. Link in description to the full video. Just going to be focusing on some of his comments around Tesla and some of the incompetent morons within legacy automotive manufacturers. And in case you missed it, posted an exclusive video to my ex-subscribers today. Click the link in the pinned comment to join. And also posted another exclusive video to my Patreon supporters as well. So let's get into it.
A trick roadster. And that's kind of like, it's a low volume thing and whatnot, and there'll be a market for anything that's got, low volume. I really didn't take Tesla seriously until I saw the Model 3. The Model S didn't do it for me. We brought it in, we looked at it, we told the customer at the time that there's nothing really here that you're going to be needing or wanting. It's an expensive, low volume car, and the people who asked, I don't think it makes much difference. It was Daimler Chrysler that asked us to look at it, and I said, there's nothing here. I don't want to take your, it costs about $1.2 million or $1.3 million to do an assessment on a car, and I didn't want to steal their money.
Well, isn't that noble of Sandy? Now, I think what I'm hearing, and I don't know, maybe some folks from Munro & Associates can correct the record if I'm mistaken. It sounds like Munro & Associates took a quick look at the Model S, surface level stuff, didn't get into electronics, didn't get into software, didn't get into thermal management, thought, they can't really put a car together, it's expensive, it's fairly low volume, just ignore it, it's not worth your time paying us over $1 million to tear it down fully and spec everything out. Fatal mistake. Maybe this is one of the reasons why many automotive manufacturers completely ignored the threat that Model S obviously represented. Within a year of its release, Model S had won just about every award ever. Car of the Year, Invention of the Year, Best Vehicle Ever. It had insane performance, and it was clear Tesla had a winning formula. Remember, they had a master plan at this point in time. In fact, years before Model S was released, back in 2006, the first Tesla Motors secret master plan clearly detailed their intent to start at the high end of the market. That was the Model S. To drive costs down, then reach a more mass market, higher volume vehicle. Strangely, despite this, the fact that they had produced an incredibly compelling vehicle, literally, it's winning every award ever. All the automotive magazines, everyone. Despite this, everyone ignored it, even Sandy Munro himself.
Then we heard about the Model 3. That was a high volume car. That's a car that's for the people, like the general population, and we had to have it. And we were very, very lucky. That was the time of COVID, or early. People didn't really understand what COVID was, but we got that car. It was one of the last ones that got out of the factory before they shut it down. It made it to Michigan. The 2 or 3 days before the governor shut down all factories, gave us a time to figure out how we were going to do the assessment, and then how we're going to get the word out. Well, that's when Corey came up with the idea of going to YouTube, and the rest is history. But my initial reaction to Tesla was low volume. They're not the kind of cars that I want to waste my time with.
We really need to talk about this. Now, to be clear, the job of Munro and Associates isn't to produce vehicles. It's to help companies understand how others are producing vehicles, how they're making them, how much it costs to tear down vehicles, to find out how to improve their own products, to reduce costs in manufacturing. So it's not Sandy's job, it ain't Munro and Associates' job to pay attention to what automotive manufacturers, using the term loosely here, because it includes Tesla, who are much more than just a car company, say they're going to do. It is, however, the job of automotive manufacturers to pay attention, but they didn't. Many dismissed Tesla. Low volume vehicle, electric vehicles, who needs those? Who wants those? Not enough range, they're going to be expensive forever, and so on. Wrong. I got to do this. Let's rewind the clock to 2006, 17 years ago. Tesla's original master plan is older than many people watching this channel. How's that? Published on the 2nd of August, 2006. The secret Tesla Motors master plan, just between you and me. Maybe automotive manufacturers took it literally. Oops, they leaked that. We better not read it, just in case their secret plans are important and we should act on them. Huh. Idiots. To get to the juicy part, here's something I posted on X a little while ago. Not sure what parts of drive down market as fast as possible and drive down the costs as fast as possible people do not understand. Tesla will keep driving costs lower, passing cost savers onto consumers and selling more vehicles. They told us in 2006, and here are some highlights. The strategy of Tesla is to enter, not end up, not finish, not stay in, enter at the high end of the market where customers are prepared to pay a premium, and then drive down market as fast as possible to higher unit volume and lower prices with each successive model. Now, words matter. It's very clear that Tesla would start at the high end and drive costs down. What's even clearer is that there'll be multiple generations of vehicles subsequent to the Model S and or X, with each successive model, not the next model, each successive model. It's already here. Again, guys, the $25,000 Tesla isn't the final destination. There will be another generation Tesla vehicle after that later this decade. Put a pin in it. You can count on it. Continuing. All free cash flow is plowed back into R&D to drive down the costs and bring the follow-on products to market as fast as possible. So I can understand Munro and Associates, they look at the Model S, whatever, luxury vehicle, low volume, we could ignore it. But for automotive manufacturers to ignore Tesla's secret master plan, unforgivable. And now they're going to pay the ultimate price. 10 years after this, in 2016, not only did Tesla publish a second master plan, which many are still ignoring, but early that same year, they unveiled the Model 3. And at that point in time, it was really worth paying attention. Why? Well, here's the thing. A year earlier, SpaceX had recovered their first orbital booster. That's the point in time where you go, this Elon motherfucker is just built different, bro. They've just recovered a fucking rocket. How? And prior to then, this guy's crazy, whatever, big goals, he'll probably fail. But at that point in time, SpaceX has literally done the impossible through incredible engineering, which is also required to create compelling electric vehicles at ever more affordable price points. You have to give the guy the benefit of the doubt and say, okay, if this guy says he's going to do something, we should really pay attention.
But when I got to the Model 3, everything changed. Everything. Nothing's the same. Nothing after Tesla. Nothing.
Well, let's get into that. What was different about this, right? Because again, you have 40 years of history in the business.
Yeah.
And again, clearly Tesla was just, low volume, high priced, overlooked it. So here you get this Model 3, you tear it down. What are your thoughts?
Initially, what a piece of shit. I can't begin to tell you. Yeah, I can't begin to tell you how disappointed I was because we had no customers. When COVID happened, we were dead in the water. And I started looking at this thing and I'm thinking, who's going to want to buy a report on this thing? And I, quite frankly, had a near mutiny when I said that we were going to buy a Tesla and tear it apart because we had already tried this a couple of times and it didn't work out. This, oh my God, the gaps, you could see them from the moon. But anyways, then once we got past the stuff that is obvious, and once we started digging into the electronics, and by the way, I've forgotten his name, but he's walking around here somewhere. He's a big guy, and he is one of the guys that designs these circuit boards, and I can't see him. But anyways, he is an incredible electronics engineer. And when I took the lid off the inverter and we started looking at it, I just about wet myself. It was so impressive. And then as we moved through and started looking at all the electronics and how incredibly efficient and effective the design was, okay, so they can't make the gaps and the paint sucks. But you know what? Everything that really counts, the powertrain, the power distribution, the electronics, the communications, the software, everything was 10 years ahead of everybody else.
Now, this is a critically important point. Many people made the fatal error of instantly dismissing Tesla by looking at surface level details, ignoring everything else. You could fit my girlfriend through one of those panel gaps. The paint job's terrible. They're going to fail. But that stuff isn't really the kind of thing that's going to move the needle. The core technologies, those were the things that Tesla not only nailed straight off the bat, but are the most critically important in creating computers on wheels known as electric vehicles. Remember, more than 10 years ago, Tesla was already doing over-the-air software updates. Still today, most automotive manufacturers on Earth haven't figured out how to do this a decade later. And I can all but guarantee, the folks who for the last 10 plus years have been claiming the competition was coming, just wait till the big boys start making electric vehicles, Tesla's in trouble, have made a similar mistake by instantly dismissing the company, looking at stuff that doesn't matter, and ignoring the stuff that counts. That being said, we've seen that Tesla has gone from one of the worst in the automotive industry in terms of putting together the surface level stuff on a car to some of the best in the industry. They learn fast. But Tesla always knew that the most important thing to focus on initially was core technology, not little boring details like panel gaps and shitty paint. That can come later. Now think about this. When you're inside a Tesla vehicle, you're experiencing the performance, the efficiency, the interface, the software, the OS, the industry-leading safety. How much of a fuck do you give about panel gaps, paint? Probably not much, unless you're a pompous car snob. It's understandable a lot of car nerds initially will be very dismissive if they don't get it. They're looking at the wrong stuff. They don't understand what counts. And this is why the insights of Munro and Associates were so incredibly compelling. Their first look at the Model 3, this sucks, bro. They can't even put a car together. But then they start getting into the stuff that really counts, and they're blown away. At this point, there was no longer an excuse for people to dismiss Tesla vehicles, not a threat, the competition will come and eat them. Because at this point in time, if we use our brains, important caveat, became quite evident. Tesla has a huge lead in the stuff that's actually going to drive this industry and technology forward and push the costs lower.
And it's still 6 or 8 years.
Yeah. No, I think anyone that's driven a Tesla, especially, I mean, it's crazy that the Model 3 has been out for 5 years, and when you drive it, especially on autopilot, it absolutely changes. It can change your life depending on how many miles a day you're driving. So I can speak to, it's literally a phone on wheels. But on the manufacturing side, you know, how did it change the game? I mean, again, you're talking these OEMs, you know, changing their models every 2 to 4 years and really just keeping status quo. And really all of the OEMs, the legacy OEMs, are built on a dealership model, and they make all of their money off of service. And so Tesla brings a car to the market that literally has 0 to no maintenance and absolutely changes the game. So from a manufacturing standpoint, what did you foresee?
You cannot, in your wildest imagination, realize or understand how much Tesla has affected the auto industry around the world. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the gigacastings. These are something that a lot of people, Munro, my company, Munro as well, has tried to talk the big OEMs into for basically the 40 years that I've been in the auto business, and with no success whatsoever. And the reason for that is always the same. Sandy, you don't understand. In 1957, we did this giant study and found out that body on frame isn't the answer. We have to go to a unibody. Really? Nothing has progressed since 1957. That's ponderous. And then And then I ripped a Tesla for the rear end of their car. 120 parts, over 1,000 fastening components. I said, this should be one piece. And Elon has said this in a couple of different videos, and that was his impetus to go to one piece. And that one piece could only be done two ways. One would be plastic injection molding, and that don't work. And the other one was die casting from Hydra, and there's the name of the company that makes the molds is a place called Costamp in Italy. Both of those companies are in Italy. Both of them were going bankrupt because they couldn't get anybody to buy their great big giant molds. Now what's happened? Everybody on the planet is trying to get in. Everybody on the planet is trying to figure out how they're going to get basically the front and rear of their vehicles, and maybe even the battery boxes, all in great big gigantic castings.
So it's worth emphasizing, in the span of just a few years, Tesla, who sucked at putting together the outside, the surface level stuff on vehicles, went from laughing stock of the automotive industry, those panel gaps are so big it could fit my obese girlfriend through one, to implementing gigantic casting, deleting hundreds of parts and processes, robots, tools, equipment, and factory floor space in the span of just a few years. Worst in industry, to embarrassing the entire industry on the thing that everyone thought Tesla couldn't do. They were already years ahead of everybody in terms of the beneath the surface stuff, electronics, the stuff that really counts, the technology. But we now get an insight, a window into how quickly Tesla learns, adapts, and goes from worst to best. This is a bar for how quickly Tesla can innovate and improve. And we've seen this again. Earlier this year, Tesla's Investor Day 2023. They've developed a modular manufacturing system to produce a compelling electric vehicle for about half the price of today's Model 3 and Y. Early works are commencing at Giga Mexico, the factory that will first produce these vehicles. I expect these things will be rolling off production lines 2-3 years from now. And Tesla's next-gen vehicle is going to be the vehicle that completely destroys the internal combustion engine industry. Just absolutely eviscerates it. The writing's on the wall. There's no catching up for legacy automotive.
Why? Because it's cheaper. It's more cost-effective. Like, cheaper is one thing, like less cost, but then sometimes you wind up with secondary or tertiary operations that you've got to do that make things incredibly difficult. Everybody was under the impression that if you shoot, by the way, here's something you may not have known. Those die castings, when they die cast using anywhere from 6,000 tons to 9,000 tons, when they push the button, it takes less than 1 second to fill that gigantic mold. That is really a feat all by itself. How much time does it take to stamp a single part? Nowhere near a second. You're looking at having to run 3 shifts for stamped parts, whereas Tesla can run at 40 seconds, which is their line speed. You cannot believe what happens when you take a whole shift level out of a factory. And then the floor space. The floor space for a stamping line is gigantic. I mean, think of the biggest mall you've been in and double it. That's kind of what happens when you do stampings. If you do die castings, you're down to about 1/10 of that factory floor space. Why is that important? You pay taxes on it. You pay utility costs on it. The number of people that you need to get the job done are infinitely smaller than anything else. None of these clowns wanted to move because why? Because they already had these giant stamping machines, and they wouldn't change because nobody else has changed. And there's a basic flaw in the philosophy of all big companies. We aren't going to be a pioneer. We're never going to be first. I'd rather be second and better dressed. Get real.
Sandy's hit on a very important point here. If you as a company are unwilling to disrupt yourself, you can guarantee there is another company that inevitably will end up disrupting you. This is how it works. It's safe to say that the entire automotive industry, for many decades has been completely complacent, in cruise control, passive. We'll just keep doing what we've been doing. Seems to be working fine. No point innovating. Let's not take any chances. Let's not do anything except what we've been doing. This kind of shit never ends well. It's only a matter of time before a company like Tesla comes along and embarrasses the whole industry and ultimately bankrupts the whole industry. Can anyone think of any other examples? Yeah, I can. How about video rentals disrupted by online streaming services? How about film cameras being disrupted by digital cameras? How about the launch industry being disrupted by SpaceX? The launch industry is one of the greatest examples of all time. These lazy, complacent motherfuckers, the likes of Boeing, Lockheed Martin, for literal decades, completely taking advantage of taxpayers with stupid cost-plus contracts, milking them for all they're worth, doing nothing, no innovation, taking no risks, sucking from the teat of the government. Next minute, a company like SpaceX comes along, nails reusable rockets, massively reduces the cost of getting things to orbit, embarrasses the entire industry. Because these companies got complacent, they were lazy, they stopped innovating. As I said, if you as a company are not constantly attempting to disrupt yourself, your own technology, your own products, your own way of doing things, it's inevitable at some point. Someone else is going to come along and do it for you.
It don't work like that. It doesn't work like that at all. No one remembers who came in second. No one ever remembers who came in second. That's kind of what you should be thinking about if you're running a big organization.
You tear down the Model 3. Obviously, it was a piece of junk initially, but you realize everything as you're going through the build, the software, all of that. How has Tesla evolved in their manufacturing as you've torn down the Model Y, the Plaid? How have you seen them evolved over the past 5-6 years?
Yeah, mostly what we see is the advancement coming from Tesla is, well, here, I'll give you an example. So I criticized the Model 3 for the rear end of that vehicle, and that was in 2020. And then in 2021, we got the first Model Y, and it had two big castings and a plate that kind of joined them together in 2020. I think it was 2020, or 2021, I should say. And then in 2022, that two casting deal had turned into one casting. There's nobody that moves that fast. We have a trick phrase, and we say that Tesla moves at the speed of thought. The speed of thought. Most of the rest of them move at the speed of a snail or a tortoise, something like that. And so that's why when people say, well, everybody's going to catch up to Tesla, I can tell right away that that person knows nothing. Zero. There's no way that that can happen.
Sandy's hit the nail on the head here. I have the exact same reaction. When I hear somebody say something like the competition's coming, these companies will catch up to Tesla, overtake them, and so on, it's evidence this person has no idea what the they're talking about. Now, it's one thing to have no idea what the you're talking about and still talk. That's just called embarrassing. However, it's an entirely different matter when you act upon your ignorance to the point where, for example, you might be shorting Tesla stock, or alternatively, long legacy automotive manufacturers, expecting them to overtake Tesla. This crosses the boundary from embarrassing to financially catastrophic. It's okay to be wrong. After all, we're all wrong sometimes. But to be so arrogant to think you've examined the evidence enough to be confident that you're right, when in fact you haven't looked close enough to determine what's going to happen, you don't understand the outcome, I feel like these folks probably deserve the financially catastrophic lesson they're going to receive. The arrogance and hubris of these folks to be making financial decisions based on a complete lack of understanding. What's the saying? Can't fix stupid?
As far as the older companies, probably and I've said this a dozen times, the company that probably risked the most and is going to reap the most rewards is Ford. The F-150 Lightning is not a Rivian, and it's definitely not a Cybertruck, but it is, without a question of a doubt, the best work truck ever. And I mean that ever, forever. I have no idea why GM decided to put out a Hummer, which was already a loser. They tried to peddle it, and they couldn't get rid of the damn thing. I don't know why they came out with that.
Well, Sandy, I certainly do so. Allow me to fill you in. It's called misdirection. Just imagine that you're a pathetic, lying snake of a CEO who continually lies to, misleads, and deceives your investors. You steal Tesla's valor, you collude with the corrupt president of the United States, you claim to have led, you outrageously lie and claim you're leading in US EV sales, when at that point in time, Tesla's outselling you about 10 to 1. By the way, fact check, this actually happened. She was talking to Andrew Sorkin, covered this maybe a year, 2 years ago. You put outrageous statements out claiming that you're going to overtake Tesla in EV sales at this point in time, yet your publicly stated numbers don't make any sense. You know you're fucked. You know you've failed at the EV transition. You know Tesla will put you out of business. But you're still CEO. You want to get compensated. What do? Two things. One, you announce lots of plans that you know you'll never actually be able to pull off. Lots of computer renderings of future potential vehicles at high volumes with outrageously impossibly low price points that aren't sustainable. But that's okay because you're going to take your golden parachute before any of these products are ever due on market. And instead, you leverage an existing brand name like the Hummer. Everybody knows the Hummer, right? You price this thing at an outrageously high price point, knowing that just about 0 people will actually buy one. Then you'll have no bad press if production is a disaster. You announce this thing. In fact, you take the absurd step of running a Super Bowl commercial to promote this product you know no one's going to buy. Why? To distract people. Hey, look over there. It's an electric Hummer. We're not going bankrupt soon. Don't sell our stock. Hey, look over there. It's a Hummer. Of course, I don't know this to be true. I'm just speculating. But that's what I think happened there. The Hummer EV was a gigantic intentional distraction. GM are not serious about electric vehicles. Ford are. Remember, Mary B.S. Barra stopped posting on Twitter, now known as X, the moment Elon Musk acquired the company. GM stopped running ads the moment Elon Musk acquired the company. Just a couple of months ago, they came crawling back to Tesla, announcing a partnership to access the supercharging network. GM are doomed. They have an incompetent leader who is a politician in CEO's clothing. And they're just trying to buy time. They don't want their investors to panic yet. I have no doubt we'll hear a lot more plans from GM about their future electric vehicles. A lot of computer renderings, lots of supposed price points, lots of fake specs they'll never achieve, lots of plans, 0 strategy, 0 action, then an inevitable bankruptcy filing. Also, they are still going to abandon their Ultium form factor. It hasn't yet happened, but I'm just telling you now. Can't wait for the moment this actually takes place. So Sandy, that's the reason for the Hummer EV. Massive misdirection. Hey, look over there. We're not going bankrupt.
I haven't had a chance to drive a Silverado yet, and most people have said if you decide you're going to tear apart a Cadillac, well, we're not going to buy that product. We're not going to buy your reports. So I guess I'm not doing that. The Mustang Mach-E after Tesla, that's my second choice. When people say I don't want to buy a Tesla for whatever reason, then I suggest maybe they might want to consider looking at a Mach-E. That's incredible. That's an incredible situation to have me talking about somebody else that is kind of close to what Tesla is. Now let's talk about the other end of the spectrum. One more. Okay, so they fired the little fat kid that used to run Toyota. And he was a useless waste of time. He just happened to be a relative inside that company.
Truer words have never been spoken. Now, if you're a Patreon supporter, you'll have seen me roast this same dumb motherfucker relentlessly. Now, I didn't know he was fat, but I do know he's a dumb c***, and I've been saying as much for the last 3+ years, nearly 4 years now, on exclusive Patreon videos. Prior to this useless dipshit stepping down as Toyota's president/CEO, he was unquestionably the least competent automotive CEO on planet Earth. That award now firmly in the hands of Mary B.S. Barra. Toyota's fall from grace will be one of the most epic of all time. And they did it to themselves. If you're leading a company not because you're competent, but because your grandfather happened to start the company, it's never a good sign. And this idiot has been busy rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic, ignoring everyone screaming, "Hey captain, hey sir, iceberg, iceberg, iceberg." As a result, Toyota, who today are one of the world's largest automotive manufacturers, number 1 or 2 by units sold per year, will be bankrupt before the decade ends. One of the all-time falls from grace. So to recap what we heard in today's video from Sandy Munro, Tesla continues to embarrass the entire automotive industry, remaining years ahead on everything that counts. There remain a few incompetent morons within legacy automotive manufacturers, probably not going to end well. As Sandy points out, Tesla moves at the speed of thought. Great example of that. Going from worst in industry to best in just a few years. And I think it's safe to say the only place the competition is coming is all over themselves, not for Tesla. And don't forget, you can watch the full video, linked in the description. Athletic Greens AG1 has given me a massive, meaningful boost in energy, allowing me to do a lot more every day, including using my brain more and using my body more. I highly recommend you guys and girls check it out. Athletic Greens AG1 is an excellent way to fill in nutritional gaps. It's got 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, and whole food source nutrients, plus prebiotics and probiotics and digestive enzymes and adaptogens to help you deal with stress. Plus, if you click the link in the pinned comment or head to drinkag1.com/SMR, you can get yourself a 1-year free supply of vitamin D3 and K2. But don't take my word for it. Here's what some of you guys and girls have to say. AG1 has changed my life. I was, as you described, treating myself like a circus, ate like trash, rarely exercised, used alcohol as a stress crutch, cannabis also. AG1 is what gave me the kick in the ass, got me back to the gym, motivated me to do more for myself, family, my business, etc. Keep doing what you do. Now, I know there's some skeptics, the same kind of people who think Elon Musk is a fraud, reading this going, what do you thought? There's no way that's possible, bro. It must be a placebo effect. Believe it or not, this is a recurring theme. If you give your body everything it needs to feel and perform its best, including having a lot more energy, you'll need ways to use that energy. For me personally, that includes more exercise, moving my body more social activity, and more cognitively demanding tasks, including producing a fuck ton of exclusive content over on Twitter and on Patreon, plus my daily YouTube uploads. The proof's in the pudding. On to another testimonial from a viewer of this channel. SMR, you asked me to provide feedback on AG1. Here it is. It has helped with mental acuity, stamina, and intestinal waste management. Can't read between the lines. Certainly helps with regularity and digestion. That's what the digestive enzymes are for. It has also dramatically reduced my cravings for sugar. You guys need to stop eating sugar. It's fucking poison. I'm 50, 5'9", and overweight, aka a fat motherfucker. I think that's a technical term for overweight, isn't it? Is it fat motherfucker or obese? I can't remember. I average 100 hours a week in the West Texas oil fields as a safety supervisor. Jesus Christ, dude. No wonder you're struggling to keep your weight under control. 100 hours a week. Brutal. It has helped me lose weight. It is not an appetite suppressant. It can help fat people suppress cravings, and motivation to be healthier is critical for changing your diet. Love you, brother. Again, this is a great point and something people really don't seem to grasp. If you have more energy, everything becomes easier. It's like turning on easy mode for life. A few years ago, before I was taking AG1, my health was trash. I was struggling to get through the day, had afternoon fatigue. The last thing I wanted to do was either use my brain or move my body. Didn't have the energy. Now, my biggest struggle every day is figuring out ways to use that energy. I'm exercising way more, doing a lot more with my friends and family, and of course, my work output has increased substantially. And you can fact check me. Check out the average length of my videos I was posting to YouTube 3 years ago. Need I say more? And one final testimonial. Love this one. Okay, here's the deal for me with this AG1 shit. I'm 41 years old and not the type to eat, drink, smoke, or sleep healthy, so I was skeptical. That being said, here's what I experienced. Day 1, meh. Day 2, afternoon fatigue was about 45 minutes late. Day 3, 0 afternoon fatigue. Day 4, 0 afternoon fatigue plus extra energy. Day 5, again, 0 afternoon fatigue plus energy. Wondering, what the fuck, really? See, this is the thing, right? The results for many people are just almost too good to be true. This is the same experience I had. My afternoon fatigue just vanished out of nowhere. I'm like, wait, what the fuck? Why am I not tired in the afternoons anymore? Surely, it's not that AG1 is it? Turns out it was. Day 6 and 7, same thing. Day 8, same thing. Plus, I had the want to get things done around the house that I normally would slack off and not get done. Again, the point, extra energy, you'll need to use it. You'll find ways to use it. Day 9, 10, and 11, and today is day 12. I fucking love it. So however you managed to get me to buy it, I'm so glad you did. Thank you so much, SMR. It really changed me so far. Guys, this shit really works. Just try it. By the way, this is the reason I continue to relentlessly promote AG1. A lot of people get real fucking mad in the comments. Oh my God, snake oil salmon's sold out. Oh my God, he's a scammer. This is fraud. But constantly, I'm pretty sure everyone making these comments is also currently short Tesla stock. I'm not particularly concerned about people having a negative perception, those folks suffering from small brain syndrome, still living in my bum's basement syndrome, etc., writing mean comments, claiming AG1's a scam or it doesn't work. I mean, bro, when I get feedback like this is what keeps me going. And remember, there is a 90-day money-back guarantee. There's nothing to lose here. Just try this stuff for a month, and if you don't get these results, get your money back. See, it's a literal no-brainer. It's an IQ test at this point in time. Testimonial after testimonial after testimonial like this. Get your money back if it doesn't work. Just try it for a month, and if it doesn't work, get your money back. Today's the day. It's finally time. Be like this guy who was a massive skeptic, but finally, after 1,000 promotions in a row, caved in, tried AG1, and has results like this. Head to drinkag1.com/SMR or click the link in the pinned comment, and please, let me know how you're feeling in a few weeks' time. Now, if you'll excuse me, time to put my extra energy to good use. I'll be recording some more exclusive content for Patreon and my Twitter subscribers. So click the links in the pinned comment. See you over on Twitter and or Patreon. And don't forget to grab your AG1. Love ya.